The World According to Johnny Dean, number 50, Saturday the 21st of November 2009. It has not been a good week in our household. We seem to have heard of an unusually large number of deaths for a start. Family, friends, and parents of friends. Rebecca, too, has recently shifted the focus of her job, with the inevitable sense of grief that goes with that. You can't leave one set of people behind without sadness, however exciting the new challenges may be. I, meanwhile, have been struggling with a cold, as you may perhaps be able to hear. I am not succumbing to flu, and I have had worse colds than this, but it's enough to make concentrating properly in meetings even more of a struggle than usual. However, the trials of both our weeks pale into insignificance compared with Nancy's, our daughter. She has spent months putting plans in place for a couple of years in South Africa. Having graduated from university earlier this year, and conscious of the difficulties facing graduates in the current climate, she wanted to pursue vocational options abroad. South Africa has a particular draw for her. She spent part of her pre-university gap year there, teaching in a rural school. She had developed friendships partly through that experience, but partly also through South Africans having gap year experience here at the Cathedral School. She explored a number of options and finally settled on aiming for a part-time PGCE course at the University of South Africa. She hoped that that would allow her to volunteer in a school as well. She was accepted on the course. She gathered carefully and methodically all the various bits of paperwork she needed to apply for a student visa, and set off for the embassy in London to make her application in person. We had been impressed with the care she had taken over all this, and the responsible, efficient way she had approached the whole process. But then, a tearful phone call told me that despite all that, she hadn't got the visa. Apparently, she could do the course by correspondence, and so she didn't need to be in South Africa to do it. Not surprisingly, she was devastated. Of course, she hasn't given up, and she is already exploring other options. But we all needed a meal out at the Fat Pig to cheer us up. There are a number of good places to eat in the city, but the Fat Pig combines very good and imaginative food with the atmosphere of an old-fashioned pub. Very hospitable and friendly, good beer and a courteous host. It's a bit like a village local in the centre of the city, and it cheered us up wonderfully. There may be an element of tit-for-tat going on at immigration level, of course. It has become much more difficult for people from abroad to get permission to come and do similar things here. The Cathedral School regularly has gap year students. They used to come from both Australia and South Africa. They contribute a huge amount to the life of the school, the broadening of their own education, and, of course, the broadening of the pupils' education here. This year, we have just had the Australians. The South African couldn't get a visa to spend a gap year here. So perhaps it's not surprising that our children have similar difficulties trying to go over there. It all leads to a general impoverishment of cross-cultural and international relationships. A few months ago, we discovered that there were even going to be complications over inviting people from abroad to come and spend just a few months sharing the cathedral's common life, even as a volunteer. They count as workers from abroad, and you can't bring them in unless you've paid a huge sum of money to register as a sponsor, which involves a large amount of bureaucratic form filling as well. Unless, of course, you're bringing someone in from Europe. That's okay. It's difficult not to think that we have got ourselves into a ridiculous and essentially self-limiting position over all this.